Hey, welcome back to Pop Culture Maniacs' podcast. Gene and I will now be talking about the 14th Doctor, since the big news at the moment is that Jodie Whittaker is leaving the show after three seasons, and obviously that means you get to have the fun of speculation time. Who could play the 14th Doctor? I think with Doctor Who, I think 3 seasons tends to be the sort of standard run, because that's what Matt Smith and Peter Capaldi did, and David Tennant essentially did 4 seasons. So she's just following the same trajectory as the previous Doctors.
Yeah, and I think after 3 series, you kind of want to get out and do other things because you've made your mark and now you're internationally known, so might as well jump on it.
I think as well, with lots of things, is avoid typecasting, because I think that's what afflicted quite a few of the other, like the Doctors from the classic era, particularly someone like Tom Baker, because he was the longest serving Doctor, and I think besides from Doctor Who, he's not particularly well known, is he?
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, I mean, with Doctor Who, it's such a unique show in the sense there's no boundary of casting. You can cast any gender, class, British nationality, shall we say. So, because I think if there was an American Doctor, that would not go down well. Or ethnicity. So I think again, when our previous discussion, everyone has their own idea of what the Doctor should be, because and obviously, whilst I'm sure we'll be talking about who we would like to see play the Doctor, they could easily throw a curveball, because who would have thought Matt Smith would have done it back in 2009 to 2010?
Yeah, I mean, and as we said, I mean, typically 3 years has been about the length of a stay, but you could always have a Christopher Eccleston who just does 1 year for different reasons than him, but just sign on for a year, be the Doctor, make your mark, and then jump out. So you could get some crazy people in there if you pitched it correctly.
Yeah, I think it's also pay as well, because obviously BBC don't have a greater deal of money to spend. So I sent you a list from What Culture. I really don't like What Culture of my experience with them. So any excuse to shit on them, great by me. So because their list was ridiculous. There's like Tilda Swinton, Idris Elba. God, it's like basically just any well-known British actor, Hayley Atwell, and then they went with Tom Holland. And you're thinking by that point, you may as well just say, we want Robert Downey Jr. or Daniel Craig or something.
Yeah, and I mean, those lists are ridiculous. They don't help anybody, and all they serve is to get uninformed people's hopes up that you're going to get, some incredible person, and then they'll inevitably be disappointed when it's someone they might not know. Like, Jodie Whittaker, like, well, who's that? I don't know who that is. Well, if you're expecting Tom Holland, then of course you're going to be disappointed.
Yeah, speaking, it's just because I think with Doctor Who, it needs to be someone. Obviously, as I said, they could throw the curveball and have a complete unknown. But I think at most you're going to get someone maybe fairly well known within the UK, but internationally not so well known. That's why when I wrote my list, I tried to be pretty realistic. So I had Adil Akhtar, who's done lots of TV shows like Les Miserables miniseries, for The Night Manager, quite sort of recognisable. Obviously, Richard Aldewadi is a popular candidate, but I think he's more known for doing hosting now rather than acting. Lots of people. I think with the What Culture list, the most realistic candidates were Michael Sheen, though I don't think he's that likely to do it, or Hugh Laurie. And I think if I did redo my list, I would probably change one of my candidates to him. But then
you might still be too high up with Hugh Laurie. I think you could get him to do like a one-off villain, and that would be. I think he'd be game for that for sure. Yeah. Michael Sheen, I don't know. He's been spending an awful lot of time with his buddy David Tennant. So.
Yes, on that stage he did. No, admittedly, it might just be for the programmed that in. It's not actually true. He said he was offered the role once. But
I believe it. I think Michael Sheen is also, too high up the food chain to take the Doctor.
Yeah, so as I said, I try to be a bit more realistic. I've threw in a few like of the sort of regular candidates as well, sort of like Ben Whishaw was usually seen as a candidate. Whether he'll do it, that's up for debate. I think some of my personal favourites would be Matt Berry for Year of the Rabbit, IT Crowd. He's the voice of the Prince in Disenchantment. So, and he's What We Do in the Shadows.
I think that would be the kicker. Is he's still committed to that? So I don't know if he could do it. But God, he'd be great.
Yeah. Someone I've always liked was Patterson Joseph, best known for playing Johnson in Peep Show.
I think there's a chance. I think he is likely. At least I think he's probably on the short list.
Yeah. I think he was apparently considered back when before Matt Smith got the role. Other candidates, I quite like the idea of someone like Benedict Wong.
Yeah, out of your list, Benedict Wong was definitely my top choice. I think he has the range, and I think he's in the perfect point in his career where he's known, like people know him if they see him, but he's known for, as you said, largely supporting roles, and this would be a chance to knock him up a level and really get him to a point where he could be a leading man.
Yeah. I also know, I think this fans would absolutely love, what's it, Pete, how do you pronounce that name? Peter Sharo. I can't pronounce that name. Basically the Tick from the Amazon show.
Oh, he'd be perfect. I mean, he's got the comic chops to handle that, which seems to be, in my experience, watching the hardest part for doctors, to handle the comedy along with the drama.
Yeah. But I think he's more of a long shot kind of candidate. I think my favourite sort of absolute left wing out of the box choice would be Angus Ibrid, who's best known for doing The Kid Who Would Be King. I would say he's probably would be very similar to the Matt Smith mold. He could do old man trapped in a young body.
Was he also in The Crown this season?
I'm not sure if he was in The Crown. He was in The Spanish Princess. And he played...
he was Prince Edward in The Crown this season. I'm like, he looks familiar.
And I was going to say he was... what's that show he did? So he did the Spanish Princess.
He was in Fleabag too.
That's it.
Oh.
Yes, he was the weird nephew.
Stepson. Oh, he's really good.
Yeah. He's young. He's only about 26.
And he looks about 15.
Yeah. Or a couple of female candidates, and oddly Irish candidates would be Aisling Bea or what's her name? Siobhan McSweeney.
I love both of them. I would absolutely love to see what Aisling Bea could do with the Doctor, because she's so good at the comedy, but she's also really, really strong in drama too. So I think she's got that balance. And I mean, anybody from Derry Girls is good by me. So
yeah. So I think with Aisling Bea, if I was showrunner, she was the Doctor, what I would probably do, you have got this really attractive woman, but I'll have her dressed up really masculine to have that juxtaposition.
Yeah, and with Aisling Bea too, you could have her just completely unaware of her attractiveness and completely uninterested in any of the stuff that was happening with regard to that, and it would actually make a really fun dichotomy with the Doctor being, traditionally, this. I mean, you look at the Matt Smith era and the David Tennant era, and everyone was just like, they're so wonderful and attractive and lovely. But then, you got to play against that type, and it would be extra fun to watch Aisling Bea do that.
Yeah, well, just like getting accosted in a pub, going, "Well, hey there, sexy."
That would be such a fun scene to see.
Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, obviously, as I said, I tried to be a bit more realistic with the candidates. Is there anyone you particularly want to see in the show?
I mean, like I said, I think Benedict Wong would kind of be perfect because you would have, the first non-white doctor with him, and you could play off that a bit, but you'd also have an actor who really has all the tools in the toolbox, and I think he'd be a very different actor than anybody who's done the role before. I think he'd probably be closest to Tennant in terms of just like, the depth of talent and experience coming in. But, it would just be so unique. And also, I saw Gemma Chan on your list too. And, if Chibnall is still around, I'd actually like to see what he could do with her.
Yeah.
Because I think she has a depth as an actor that hasn't really been tested. That being said, she's in Marvel movies now, so
Yeah,
I don't think she's coming back from that, but it'd be interesting.
yeah. I was thinking for her, it's more because of her role in Humans, where she had to be sort of deliberately robotic in her delivery, but really there was a lot going on underneath.
Yeah, and I mean, also Rory Kinnear, like, he's such a wild card. I've never been able to pin him down in any of his roles he's in, but has experience, with a wide variety of types of roles, types of characters. He's so good, and I think he'd bring an interesting twist to the character that we haven't seen before.
I think with him, because he does a lot of Shakespeare, and so did David Tennant, so it could be quite similar to that, like the big grandiose speeches and everything.
Yeah,
Like
I
that.
feel like he'd probably be closer to Chris Eccleston though, in terms of just like the style of work he tends to do. But man, he's really great, and I've never not liked a performance I've seen of his.
Yeah, and I think that as well, because with Dorothy, because I said, like one of the favourites at the moment, according to the bookies, is Michaela Cole from what's it? I May Destroy You.
Yeah. Oh no. She's better than this. She doesn't need Doctor Who.
Yeah, I mean, she is a very good actress. Whether she's right for Doctor Who is another question.
Yeah, I think she also right now has carte blanche to write whatever she wants in Hollywood. So I think she's gonna run with that.
And I think when it comes to bookies odds, is that it's similar. I say it's similar to James Bond. You may as well just look into a crystal ball. It's about as accurate.
Yeah, I mean, just flip a coin. It's going to be who it's going to be.
Yeah.
And until somebody slips up and tells somebody else, that's the only way we'll find out.
Yeah. I was thinking of with the whole sort of culture war, like one candidate is Maxine Peake, and I think, my God, what would happen if she got the role? Because she is a socialist. I mean, a proper socialist, not like what sort of the sort of right wing crowd in America calls socialist.
That would be, I mean, yeah, that would definitely make the show less popular in America.
Yeah, and I know, like, I think this was done as a joke, or some people suggesting like Lawrence Fox as the Doctor, and anything. Yeah, that's not going to happen because he's toxic now. Because he's always,
the last thing they're going to do is put somebody who's radioactive into a part.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking, I have my own like ideas if I got to show run what I do. If I had a female Doctor, I think one episode I quite like. It's sort of a bit of a sort of a combination of the earlier draft of Alien 3 and Beowulf. So if the Doctor lands and say in a monastery in like the 8th or 9th century, like the idea, because I had to say she lands in a monastery in Iceland before the Vikings came. So because that was like suggested that the earliest settlers might have been Irish or Scottish monks. And obviously you got that sort of so obviously female Doctor in with a load of celibate men, and obviously having to stop whatever monster there is at the time.
That's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, and I do have other ideas. I think like with things like I think one of Stephen Moffat's big mistakes is he killed off characters, but he essentially resurrected them. I think if you're going to kill off a companion, actually mean it. They die, they're gone forever.
Well, yeah, I mean, I have two pet peeves when it comes to media. One is, show don't tell, and the other is there needs to be stakes.
Yeah.
If people die, they can't just come back 2 episodes later. There have to be stakes, and if there aren't stakes, nothing matters.
Yeah, that's what I think with what happened with, because Heaven Sent was, I think, probably one of my favourite episodes of the show, which is during Peter Capaldi's run, where he's literally having to relive the same scenario over and over again, but it then got undercut because he resurrected Clara in the next episode, who died previously.
Well, yeah, I mean, when I stopped watching was after Rory was the Sentinel, and there were no stakes afterwards, and everything was fine.
Yeah.
That was when I was like, can we just make, if someone's dead, they're dead. If someone's alive, they're alive. If you've saved somebody, you've saved somebody. But we can't have this thing where we can retcon back and fix everything, because then time doesn't matter, nothing matters.
I think the other issue is, I think, it's like Daleks, obviously the most popular villains, but they sort of mean like there seems to be this odd paradox to them. The more they are of them, the less threatening they become, because Dalek, one of my favourite episodes, especially from Christopher Eccleston's time, it pretty much showed one Dalek could do a lot of damage, but then they kept reusing them. I think they need a bit of a reboot in the sense, I think A, they need a bit of a break, like a couple of seasons, and B, when they do come back, they need to be like a real threat, like an unstoppable army. Do things like, not just say kill, exterminate, but maybe do things like experiment, use people, their conquered people as slave labor or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, right now they're kind of like the stormtroopers in Star Wars, where they'll all be there, nobody's going to get shot, and everything's going to be fine because we can outsmart them with their kitchen utensil arms. But make slave labor, make it into a much larger, more complicated story where they're actually strong and vicious. And you could bring in some political stuff there and have it not land like a lead balloon.
And I mean, I'm sort of going with the. I know this would probably go back to our previous discussion with. Obviously, Chris Chibnall, one of his big mistakes was he having 3 companions, and they ended up just being pretty blank slates. I think it's sort of like Yaz, she just ended up in this season 11, she just felt like she was tagging along for the ride. And Toslin Cole, who played Ryan, because you're saying like you've never seen a bad actor in a major role in Doctor, and you're thinking, yeah, your opinion might change if you saw him, because God, he's wooden.
Yeah, but I mean, to bring it back to casting Doctor Who, I think we've actually come up with a pretty solid list. And looking at the bookies list, which are mostly ridiculous because Olivia Colman's not going to do this. Phoebe Waller-Bridge won't do it. Tilda Swinton won't. You might get David Harewood, but actually Richard Ayoade, I could see that.
Yeah, and I think is essentially the public's choice as well for the role. It is essentially who. I think one joke was like, Doctor, the TARDIS isn't working. Have you tried turning it on and off again?
Yup, and I know in lockdown here, a lot of people have been watching, IT Crowd and getting to know him. So I think he's amassing enough of a base here among the nerdy types who are the first to jump onto Doctor Who, that I think it would help the show to have that recognizable face.
Yeah, admittedly, I did try to avoid having too many IT Crowd actors on my list, so that's why I avoided putting Chris O'Dowd or Noel Fielding on it.
Yeah, I mean, especially now that Noel is on Bake Off, and Bake Off, of course, is the biggest thing here. I mean, I've even got my parents watching Bake Off, which is a huge win. I think Noel is so recognizable that it's also driving people to seek out his other work. And, with Richard, you'd get that base. And I think, Richard'd be great. He's so quirky. He's so different.
Yeah.
And I think he'd be hilarious and also really great at the tragedy aspects that he'll have to do.
Yeah. Fun fact though, his brother-in-law is Lawrence Fox.
No.
Apparently so.
What?
No. So that must make Christmas. That must make Christmas at that household interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. But yeah, because as I said, he's probably the fans' choice for the role. But I think whoever does it, they obviously Chris Chibnall really needs to step up his game with the writing, or they need to get a new showrunner.
Yeah, and he needs to figure out what he wants to do, what story he wants to tell. And when he doesn't have a strong focal point, like in the third season of Rogers, it's just a disaster. So he needs to have that focus, and if he can't get that focus and turn it into a palatable television show, then it's time for him to step aside and let somebody else try.
Yeah, and I think with that point, it sounds like a good time to end it. So, to our listeners, let us know who your preferred pick for Doctor Who to play the 14th Doctor would be. Thank you very much for listening. Please subscribe. Please like us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and we'll speak to you again soon.